angel in lace, a fabulous face.
That's no exaggeration, that's my Marilyn.
Your gal, I believe, beginning with E,
could weave a fascination like my Marilyn. But if luck is with me, she'll be my bride forevermore. I'll be marrying, carrying Marilyn through my door.
The French are glad to die for love. They delight in fighting duels. But I prefer a man who lives and gives expensive jewels. A kiss on the hand may be quite continental, but diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Marilyn Monroe is the greatest legend in Hollywood history.
Isn't it delicious?
All the guys had an eye for Marilyn, and she liked the guys.
She did behave badly. She was unprofessional at times. She could be incredibly difficult.
What we saw with Marilyn Monroe was the tragedy and the vulnerability.
Hey, wait a minute!
She was a carefully crafted show business creation, an alluring blend of sex and sensitivity. But more than 3 decades after her untimely death, Marilyn Monroe has come to represent more than just a Hollywood actress. She has become an icon, an immortal symbol of glamour and sensuality. Hers is the legend of a great star who burned brightly, but all too briefly.
She used to say, I don't want to be rich, I just want to be loved. She represented those two strongest of human emotions, which are hope and fear.
Hollywood, California, the dream factory of the world, a place where real life and fantasy often converge and sometimes collide. It was here on June 1st, 1926, that Norma Jean Baker was born. Her mother Gladys had yearned for a job in show business, lured by the promise of jazz-age excitement and easy prosperity. What she got was a 9-to-5 job splicing film for a local movie company, a series of lovers, and an unexpected pregnancy. Listing the name of a fictitious father on Norma Jean's birth certificate, Gladys had every intention of raising the child herself. But the social and economic pressures of single parenting were too great for Gladys. Emotionally fragile and financially unstable, she was often forced to place her daughter into state custody and a succession of foster homes. While in the care of couples who took her in to profit from government welfare assistance, the little girl felt isolated and insecure, and easy prey to the horrors of emotional and even sexual abuse.
When she was little and she was a very neglected child, she literally thought she was invisible. She thought she couldn't be seen, because children who are not focused on enough do come to believe they're invisible.
In 1935, after a brief attempt to care for Norma Jean herself, Gladys suffered a severe mental breakdown. She had threatened a close friend with a knife, and she was committed to a state psychiatric institution. At the age of 9, Norma Jean was again placed in foster care. Her adolescence was spent in the rural farmland communities of the San Fernando Valley, just north of Los Angeles. It was here that she dreamed of Hollywood stardom. Hiding in the shadows of the silver screen, she could escape into a world where men like Clark Gable embodied strength and independence, and women like Jean Harlow used glamour and sex to obtain power and popularity. Emotionally alone, Norma Jean craved attention, especially the kind she saw being lavished on her screen idols. Fortunately, she wouldn't have to wait very long.
When she became a teenager and she started to develop breasts and hips and this, amazing physical self, boys noticed her. She became visible for the first time.
By the age of 15, Norma Jean had found relative stability in the well-kept home of Grace McKee. But that would not last long.
Marilyn was married off because her foster parents and her relatives didn't want the burden of, in 1942, wartime, of caring for a teenager and being responsible for her. So the minute she turned marriageable legal age, according to the state of California, they married her off to a perfectly affable, decent young man.
I met Norma Jean in 1941. Norma Jean was going to Van Nuys High School. My first impression was that she was a beautiful young girl. And, of course, she was only 15 at the time. But I recognized the fact that she was shy. And when she talked in a soft voice. And but she had beautiful eyes. When we decided to get married, she was going to be left by Doc and Grace. They were going back to Virginia. Adele was sending him back there. And Grace asked my mother if I would marry her, if I wanted to marry her. And I thought, you know, she's pretty young, but she's going to be in an orphanage or another foster home, so I agreed to it. And she became 16 in June 1st, and we were married on the 19th. So she'd only been 16 a short time. In fact, I just turned 21 in April. So I was a whippersnapper, too. It was great. She was a wonderful wife. She was a good cook. She was an immaculate housekeeper. And she enjoyed being married.
Marriage offered Norma Jean the chance to play housewife and the opportunity to develop a real family of her own. It also encouraged her to search for the father who had abandoned her and her mother so many years earlier, a man she only knew by name.
Sandy Gifford was her father, and he eventually became a producer, director. And she got on the phone, she looked up his number, and she called him. And he wouldn't recognize her. He said, "No, I don't know who you are. See my attorney," this kind of stuff. And she didn't want anything from him. She was real sad, and she sat down, and I sat down next to her, and I gave her a lot of TLC for about an hour, and she come out of it all right. So, but he missed a good chance.
As America entered the Second World War, Norma Jean's new domestic life would prove to be short-lived.
Well, time came I had to ship out, and she always wanted me to let her have a baby. And she said, in case something happens to you, I'll have a piece of you. I said, "You're too young to be having children. And if anything did happen to me, you would have a real anchor on your neck, and it wouldn't be good for you."
Like so many wives of GIs stationed overseas, Norma Jean joined the war effort at a local defense plant where she made parachutes. Although she missed her husband, she enjoyed working and grew used to living alone. But the attractive brunette would not be alone for long. Approached by an Army photographer looking for pretty girls to help boost troop morale, she agreed to pose for a series of cheesecake pictures. And soon, Norma Jean Doherty would be known as Miss Flamethrower. Flattered by the attention and feeling one step closer to her dreams of stardom, she accepted an offer with the Blue Book modeling agency. Within weeks, she was adorning the covers of countless national and international publications.
I was in Buenos Aires, and here's a magazine, I forget which one it was, her picture's on the cover. And I'm telling these guys, this is my wife. And it's, sure it is. Yeah, you betcha.
At 20, Norma Jean realized she had the means to control her own destiny. But the spotlight on her career only served to expose the flaws in her marriage.